The bombshell that dropped before the game that had all of us researching, calling, texting with each other is Mark Cuban selling a majority stake of his beloved franchise. Is he setting up a Las Vegas scene here in the Metroplex? I wanted to hit up our guy, Mavs insider, the one and only Mike Fisher, here on Shan and Bobby, 105.3 The Fan. Good morning, Fish. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, man. Outstanding. Thank you.
Michael, what is going on here? Why is Mark Cuban doing this?
Yeah, the initial knee-jerk, understandably, is Mark Cuban selling the Mavericks, so he's getting out of basketball. And the fact is, he's getting into basketball. It's just that he's also getting into something else, which is the casino and resort business. And he's going into business with the Adelson family, Miriam Adelson, who is part of a family. She's the widow now of Sheldon Adelson, who built this gigantic empire, the centerpiece of which is Las Vegas Sands. And the vision here is that the Mavericks will be, and the Mavericks' new arena in about 7-8 years, will be the hub of the wheel of Las Vegas, Texas. Cuban's not taking the Mavericks to Las Vegas, and he's not dumping the Mavericks. He's bringing Las Vegas to Dallas. And so this is really not just a basketball deal. This is a real estate deal on steroids. And all they got to do now is have Cuban, who yesterday was a $6 billionaire, now is a $10 billionaire after this deal, join forces with Miriam Adelson, who's worth $36 billion, the fifth richest woman in the world. Marcia, by the way, my wife is seventh. She's the seventh richest woman in the world.
Yeah, I saw your house in Frisco. I believe it.
Yeah, thank you. So the two of them join forces financially and politically and start twisting arms here in the state of Texas. Gambling will get legalized, and we're going to have a resort and casino somewhere in the desert in Texas or Dallas or somewhere where Cuban already owns land, or maybe they'll just grab up your neighborhood, Sean, plow it down, and put up a casino.
Please do plow it all down.
Fish, why the need to give up the majority stake, though? Like in entering this partnership and in trying to make, Las Vegas, Texas, why give up the majority partnership? Why walk away from Shark Tank? It feels like, or at least the initial reaction thing from a lot of people yesterday felt like there's some other domino here that's going to fall that's relating to Cuban just kind of walking away from things. Why would he need to sell the majority stake to make all that come to fruition?
Yeah, I don't think the domino to fall is that Cuban's walking away from anything. Shark Tank, I mean, with all due respect to Mark Cuban, I don't care if he's on Shark Tank. In fact, I always found it kind of irritating that he was on Shark Tank when I wanted the Mavericks to have free agents go to dinner with him, and he was a little busy. So Shark Tank can kiss off for all I care. Hey, Bobby, my suggestion here is that the Adelson family wanted to get into the sports business, and so he makes that sacrifice. Okay, come on in and take this chunk. But Bobby, imagine how much he's going to make, so much more money than $3.6 billion when he is the king of gambling and casino and resort in Texas, and he will be the king of it, and she'll be the queen of it. That it's a tiny sacrifice to allow her to have the majority stake in the team, especially when he's still going to run the team. I do understand the speculation about, well, get away from this, get away from that, run for president, all that. I think Mark Cuban's going to be really busy in the next 8 years building this new empire. So his $6 billionaire bank account yesterday just jumped up to $9.6 billion, and it's going to go through the roof. And by the way, so will revenue from casino and resort business in Dallas and in Texas. And that's a factor here too, which is why the government eventually here is going to either see the light or be forced to see the light.
Mike Fisher here on The Fan. So you believe also it's inevitable that they'll flip the switch on gambling here?
I think it's inevitable because more and more, despite the fact that the Bible Belt may object to some of this, more and more it's simply a fact of our everyday existence. And we do it in our business every day with fantasy and gambling and FanDuel and all the rest. Yep. Jerry Jones in business with the Texas Lottery, which once upon a time would have been seen as criminal. Now it's just good business. And of course, it raises money for the state, raises money for the government, it increases the revenue So we all live better as long as the bright lights of Las Vegas, Texas aren't shining on my front door. That's all.
Well, and specifically when we talk about that inevitability, is the greatest sign of that inevitability the name that's attached to this, Adelson, that this is a name that has built an empire in Las Vegas, and they wouldn't, even though they're in the gambling business, they're not going to come here to gamble with, $3.5 billion. Is that the greatest sign of inevitability, that somebody who's in this business, established it in Las Vegas, says, I'm going to get this started in Texas, and I have the, not to get too politics, as Kevin Hagelin would say, but the greatest sign that being that this is somebody who is a massive political donor in the party that is of power here in the state of Texas.
Yeah, Bobby, you're right on. The Adelson family could have bought or bid on any team in the world, in any sport. The Mavericks are the crown jewel of any team in any sport. Well, of course they're not. But this is fertile territory here. This is fertile ground for the Adelson family to do its business in Texas. This is unplowed territory, and obviously the money here and all the rest. And then I know that Shan doesn't do politics on this show, I know, but this is impossible to ignore. Cuban is not necessarily buddies with that side of the aisle, right? Not buddies with former President Trump, not buddies with Governor Abbott. Well, she is.
Yeah.
And so she is, as Bobby mentioned, she is a gigantic contributor in every way, not only financially, but intellectually to Trump's political work, and same thing with Governor Abbott. So can Mark Cuban get Governor Abbott to sit down with him and break bread and see the eye to eye? Maybe not, but she can, and she will.
That's fascinating, though. I'm like looking here at the Texas flag, and I see all the red and all the blue, and I'm like, there's Cuban and there's versus Adelson. Is it a good or a bad thing that Mark Cuban is maintaining control of basketball operations?
I do think that increasingly in the post-Donnie Nelson era, that Mark isn't quite as hands-on in saying, I like that player, and that player. I really do think that Nico Harrison, the general manager now, has a great deal of authority to do those sort of things. I also think that some of the silliness in that front office, where, speaking of gambling, we got that Bob character, and he's over there with this authority, and he's telling Luke what to do. I think they've cleaned out some of that junk. But I would reemphasize, as much as we all love the Mavericks and all love basketball, Shan, this is so much more gigantic than that. That the Mavericks, I mean, the new arena is part of this, but it'll just be one of many shiny, glitzy buildings that we're all going to hang out in late into the night and forget what time it is.
Who do you think puts their hands, nose, brain, who interferes more with their team between Cuban and Jerry? From an operations, from a team standpoint.
Yeah. If first of all, we accept that you can actually meddle when it's your own company.
Right.
I've always defended both of them by saying, well, that's like saying Sean Sharif is meddling in the Sean and RJ show. How can you meddle? It's your show.
Yeah.
But I would say Jerry is a better listener. So Jerry isn't going down the hall telling Will McClay who we like. Mark Cuban has certainly done that.
When you talk about the Adelson family wanting to get involved in sports, was that strictly just as a business venture that they wanted to get involved in sports, or is there any inclination for them, even though Mark Cuban has the control and interest, is there an inclination from them that they want to be involved in some level on any basketball decisions? Yeah,
or, Miriam Adelson, I'm assuming that she's not a big hoops fan. That's just my assumption. Given her incredible background, and I'm sure you guys have looked it up, she's what an unbelievable resume she has. Separate from the money, just an extremely accomplished woman. But I think this is about all the little ties that bind. I'll give you a little tiny one. So between their adopted children and their shared children, he, of course, passed away, Sheldon. She's 78 years old. One of her daughters is a big shot entrepreneur in Israel. And guess what Israeli TV show Miriam's daughter stars on?
Wheel of Fortune.
Close. Shark Tank Israel.
Oh,
wow.
So I'm telling you, Mark Cuban hasn't missed a move here. He's taken all these loose threads and tied them all together to the point where his new business wife is on Shark Tank in Israel. That's how detailed this is. Cuban's, I think, been working on this for 2 years. This is going to be another 7 years before we get it done. By the way, he's 65. And so do this project for the next 7, 8 years, and now he's 73 years old. And I would think that he would say, no, I'm not interested in being the president of the United States at age 73. I just built a resort and casino. I think I'll sit back like Scrooge McDuck and just lay on my gold coins.
Is there anything else you think we need to know about this story before we get to the Cowboys?
Really? Get to the Cowboys with me?
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh. Just if Gavin Dawson's listening, beer me. That's all on that.
NA. It's got to be NA, though.
Mike Fisher on the Boomer Jacks Bar and Grill Hotline here. Oh, look, I'm getting a call from Vegas. Maybe this is her.
Oh, you've got the connection. By the way, somebody just pointed out on Twitter that the owner of the Rockets is also the owner of Golden Nugget Casino. So now you have the two majority owners of the Rockets and the Mavericks are both casino people.
Yeah, the government's going to need to get out of the way here. I'm sorry, government.
Are you also endorsing weed with your future, like fish gummies, the fish edible gummies you could market?
One of these days, Marcia and I are going to smoke pot. It's never happened in our lifetimes.
You
but
too, and Bassick. I'll set up a live webcam. I would pay. I'll pay and set it up to watch you, Marcia, and Bassick smoke together.
We're so scared and we're so dumb. We think it's going to be like some wild acid trip and we're going to lose our minds. So we really don't know. We're very frightened.
I'm such a paranoid individual. The last time years ago that I took part in anything like that, I literally stood with my back up against a wall for 2 hours so that no one could get me from behind. That's what I told
There
people.
you go.
Mike, what burning Cowboy topic have you been talking about on YouTube?
Well, I do think, by the way, Fish Report is where you can find me, of course, and at cowboyssi.com.
Straight
I do
dope,
think
no bullshit.
That's right. Not that Jerry didn't already have some awareness of this, but I bet you Jerry Jones has a little extra pick-me-up in his step today. I think this Mark Cuban story is a motivator for Jerry. And so, in fact,
because AT&T is going to be overshadowed? Or the big story? Will this make Jerry sign? He'll overbid for Shaq Leonard today to get the headlines back from Cuban.
No, I do not think. And I don't think it'll be about headlines. I think it'll be about finance. I think that what Mark Cuban has done is just plow an open road to Jerry saying, I want in on that. I'll do that. I'll take a casino or two. How do we benefit from this? So I do think this becomes a Cowboy story, the way everything else, the way football becomes the story in Texas. I think Jerry will be involved in that. And then obviously, football-wise, we're looking at the gauntlet now. And the teams that the Cowboys have beaten, and I don't think it's fair to say they haven't beaten anybody good. One of the reasons the teams that they have beaten aren't any good is because they beat them. But the record for this next five coming up, Bobby, is something like what? The combined record, 38-18?
Yeah, they're pretty good. This is 5 playoff teams essentially in a row.
So we know this. We will not be able to say that after this next 5 weeks, whatever happens. And don't let people get away when they beat Seattle, which they will on Thursday night. Don't let people get away with saying, well, they're not anybody. They're a 500 team. Seattle was a playoff team last year, and a minute ago they were 6-3. And Cowboys are about ready to give them their third straight loss.
Thank you, Mikey. Fantastic, man. We appreciate it.
By the way, that prediction, that's as much as I know about guys. That's my gambling for the day. I just made a prediction.
Mike Fisher at Fish Sports on Twitter via the Boomer Jacks Bar and Grill Hotline. So that's Mike saying, no, this is all staying right here, and this is just waiting for gambling and a resort to be built around it.